Thank you. The court will be closed Thursday from 10:30 to 1 o'clock to attend Bridget's service. A closed session was held October 19th pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, 3 cases with NEMI, and that was canceled. I'd like to move to the consent agenda. If anyone wants to pull the minutes or correspondence, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll take a motion, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. We're in recess till 9:10.
Shortest consent calendar.
I know. And under the jurisdiction of the board
Good morning.
or the auditor.
Linda Church is the auditor controller. I would like to introduce some staff this morning. We've had a few recent changes in the auditor's office. Frank DeMattis, he's a CPA and he has substantial government service experience, and he's replacing Jane Wright at the accountant auditor 2 level. So you will be seeing a lot more of Frank.
Bright?
Frank DeMattis.
Oh, Frank.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome to Calaveras Government Center.
And I also wanted to add, although she needs no introduction, all of you know Chris Hollingshead. She is back as extra hire, and a week ago she became the assistant. So she will be the assistant auditor controller through December. So if you have any questions and I'm not here, feel free to call me.
She's still on my speed dial.
Welcome back.
Good morning, Mike Weetrick. I'm a resident in District 1, a property owner in District 5. I'm here this morning because I watched the playback from the meeting last week, and I keep hearing about all this public involvement with the coalition plan for Valley Springs and what they decided they want to turn Valley Springs into. And I'm wondering how, as I sat there watching the thing, and I watched person after person that was a member of the planning coalition, My Valley Springs, and COG were all notified of the fact they were bringing that document up here and turning it in, and none of the public was here to voice their opinion. So once again, the public is shut out of the public participation process during that entire thing. At their last public meeting, it was pointed out to them that during the time when they submitted their grant application and it turned into a fund transfer agreement, in that fund transfer agreement, it spelled out specifically the guidelines for public participation. And one of those guidelines was the makeup of a stakeholders group to represent large groups of people within the community that they were planning on changing. Well, that stakeholders group was eliminated from the process, just like those of us in the public were eliminated. That was asked at the last meeting, and their response to that at the public meeting was that stakeholders group was just an advisory group. Well, an advisory group should have some input on a document, especially something as important as a community plan that has the potential to completely change the character of the town that everybody lives in. During that public meeting, it was asked of them, based on all of the comments that they were receiving at that public meeting through the so-called public participation process, whether any changes were going to be made to their document before it was submitted to you guys, which happened last week, from what I've been told. They said that our comments would be stuck into the back of the book, and that basically it was being turned in as written. Being part of the group that was put together by Supervisor Tofanelli, we had a public meeting also, and we asked for public comments, and we asked for input from everybody involved whether they lived inside the boundaries or not. And we sat down and we had meeting after meeting, and we went through every one of those documents one by one, and we made significant changes to the plan that was submitted to you guys. That is public participation. When you have something that's public participation and name only, it's not hard to figure out why nobody wants what they're offering. Because what it comes down to is the Planning Coalition drafted a plan a couple of years ago, and they had a couple of meetings with some people that they manipulated into thinking that it was their plan. And then they said, this is the public's plan. This is what the public wants. Well, it's not what the public wants. And if it was what the public wanted, then they would have had no problem notifying the rest of us that they were turning that in last week, so that once again we could have a chance to come up here and express our disappointment with the process that they entered into. They had a legal agreement. They were paid money, our tax money, to draft this document. And what it comes down to, the Planning Coalition, My Valley Springs, and some consultants from Sacramento are who put this plan together. This plan was not drafted by the people that lived within the boundaries of the area that they submitted that plan for. They had nothing to do with it. They were simply manipulated into thinking that they had some input into that document. And time after time, they come up and they talk about all this wonderful public participation, but yet all the way to the end and at the very last thing when they submitted in here, we were denied the opportunity to come in here and speak whether we were in favor of it or against it. We were denied the opportunity for public input. They were all informed that they were bringing that up here. How come we weren't informed? When we brought ours in here, they were all in here. They were given the right to express their, either acceptance or, denial of that document. We were denied that. We've been denied it time after time after time. And when I watched the playback of that meeting last week, when all those people, time after time, and it came time for the supervisors to speak, I have to say that, Mr. Tryon, I was really impressed with the fact that you actually have the guts to speak your mind. And I'm disheartened in the fact that you were only one that had the guts to speak up and say, this is wrong. And when it came down to Mr. Thomas, who has been told, you have been given documents showing that the people in Rancho...
You have 15 seconds left.
The people in Rancho and the people in Valley Springs were 100... I believe it was 89% against this plan. You sat there and said nothing. That is not leadership. And I hope that the people that are voting next Tuesday see the lack of leadership.
Thank you. This was not a public meeting on the plan. It was just turned in. It was a public comment. There will be a public meeting on the Plan U, and everyone else will have an opportunity to discuss all the permutations of the two plans at that time. Normally, during public comments, the board does not respond. It's time for the public to talk, not the board. So, yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kathleen Poole, and Bonnie Newman's here with me. And we're here with the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Board again. This last weekend, 5 of us went to the California In-Home Supportive Service Advisory Committee Conference that was sponsored by SECA. And also Bonnie went with us, she was representing SEIU, but she was there too. And first of all, on Friday from 3 to 6, we went to an intensive training on the history of IHSS, consumer directions, disability history week. And we went in breakout groups and learned about the budget, allocation, the Brown Act, contacting public officials, recruiting and educating new members. And we were one of the first of the conference to actually get a certification in this training. What was really great was at the registration table were these books that were just handed out to you. I picked up one of the books and was really surprised to see these are the stories that we asked for from our clients and from workers to tell us their story about IHSS. And when I looked through the book, most of them were from Calaveras County. All these stories went into SECA and they just put this book together. So it was quite a delightful surprise that our voices heard. And I just wanted to share this with you today and let you know how important this program is, and that we appreciate your support.
Thank you, Kathleen.
I hear a rumor that you were elected the chair of the advisory committee just yesterday. Is this true?
Yes, it's true. I'm delighted to be able to chair, and I think we're going to make a lot of headway, and we've made some really great plans to perhaps have a town meeting and get together with our consumers so they know who the board is and we know who they are. And we came up with a lot of good things, and we had a great meeting yesterday, and we're meeting again on the 15th, and we're moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Kathleen.
One comment about this booklet, it's going to every
Bonnie?
legislator, I'm sorry?
Could you just introduce yourself for the
Bonnie
record?
Newman,
Thank you.
Double Springs. It's going to every legislator in the state. 90% of those entries are from Calaveras County. It's incredible. They'll know us.
Thank you, Bonnie. Marty, good for you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andy Ballantyne, District 5. Morning, Board. I'm also disturbed that at last week's meeting, all the proponents got to speak in favor of the consensus plan, and the people that were opposed to the plan were denied equal time. My understanding is that they spoke for about 45 minutes or more, and all I get this morning is 5 minutes. I don't think that's fair. I'd say the outreach part of the consensus plan is flawed. There were no signs promoting meetings, and the number of people reached was exaggerated, as the same 20 to 40 people attended all the meetings. So that means that some people were counted 7, 8 times, and I think I'm one of them. The meetings were constantly changed at the last minute. There was a lot of that went on too. That's not a good public outreach program. And when I attended the meetings, CCOG and the consultants, they used most of the speaking time at the meetings, and the consultants limited public participation at meetings, and they did this by intimidation and by not answering questions. The consensus plan that was submitted was written by bureaucrats, consultants, and socialists. The first two being in it, they were in it for the money, and the socialists were in it to promote Agenda 21, a controlled way of life through sustainable development. The plan itself is a carbon copy of the original grant that was written. If you compare that plan to the original grant, you will see that it's just the same. It reads the same. It has the same goals. The only difference being the consensus plan is longer on words, with lots of repetition, and short on substance. It was written in true bureaucratic fashion, a list of words that mean nothing, say nothing, except to give it volume and length. And the reason this was done was to discourage people from reading it. A typical government way of getting a document approved and not revealing what it really says. The people have spoken through the voting process that they want the Valley Springs committee plan. and have repeatedly stated so. If the Board of Supervisors truly represents the people, the choice of plan is obvious. The question has never been answered, why did it take $255,000 to craft a plan no one wanted or asked for when a citizens committee did one that was acceptable to the people in the areas involved in less time and at no cost? Who knows what is best for the people than the people themselves, the people that live and work in an area? They do not need outsiders coming in and telling them what's good for them. The people are the ones that should be the determining factor, not a bunch of outside groups and people from other areas that come in and say, we think this is what's best for you. That I understand that according to the law they're allowed to do that, but I would think that they would show more character and not come in and interfere in somebody else's business, which they seem to be very good at doing. You know, I think that the plan that was crafted by the Valley Springs Committee is a very good plan. It was a plan that was approved by the people. It's
Indeed.
a plan that's well-written,
You have
and
15
it should be
seconds.
adopted by the Board of Supervisors. The consensus plan should be thrown in the junk where it belongs.
As I said, we will be having public meetings on it. Thank you for your comments.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Gresh. I'm the Program Director for Resource and Referral Services at the Resource Connection, and we oversee child care resource and referral and alternative payment programs. I'm here today to let you know what happened in the recent late night on, I think it was October 9th, when the governor blue-penciled vetoed some of the child care funding. You may or may not have heard in the news lately that Stage 3 child care was completely eliminated. That was $256 million statewide and affects right now, as of November 1st, 60,000 children statewide. 81,000 children will be affected over the course of the year. Stage 3 child care is the third stage of child care for parents that have worked their way through the CalWorks program. They come in on Stage 1, where they receive assistance with welfare to work activities. Once they become stable, they enter what we call Stage 2 child care. They can stay there for 24 months. Those are working families. After 24 months, we had Stage 3 child care, which was a safety net program, so that families could continue to work. These are working families that are paying parent fees back into the system to generate more child care options. The elimination of Stage 3 for Calaveras County means that 18 families and 28 children as of November 1st have no child care available to them. What it means for these families could be a variety of different options. They may end up going back through welfare, back to Stage 1 assistance with cash aid. They may lose their jobs. We've had some let us know that they are just simply leaving Calaveras County and going to live with family in other places. Our numbers are not huge compared to the statewide numbers, but these are real families that are struggling. They're families that worked their way through a system with a pledge from our state government that said, if you do this, we'll offer you that until you can get on your own feet. What happens is families' income off of child care. Child care equals almost what a family might pay for a state college tuition, but these are younger families, so they need our help. And we need our children in safe environments. Yesterday, I think you should know that Mary Sawicki called a group of us together and was instrumental at getting some discussions going. And so we are looking for alternative funding. There is a proposal out there to access maybe some First 5 Commission funds, but that would only cover services for children 0 to 5. We're still looking for funds to accommodate the older children. In Stage 3, because families have been in the welfare system for at least 2 years, a lot of the children are school-age children. So 60% statewide is the children are school age. So I thought that it was important for you to know what's happening to the families in Calaveras County in regards to the stage 3 child care.
I have a question. Kelly, do you know the the annual cost of those that are not 0 to 5 on stage 3 child care? And do you know how many, if any, of those families might be eligible under other programs for alternative funding?
The average cost of child care, when we look at the whole average, taking into consideration all ages, we are currently showing on our caseload reports about $277 per month. So it's not huge, but it's important to understand that that is an average. And remember, 60% of those children could be school age. If we looked at the 0 to 5 population, that amount would, of course, increase because it's more expensive and we're looking at full-time care. So for the school-age children, it is significantly less. Last year, our stage 3 contract, we paid out about $82,000 over a course of a 12-month period for the families. And this year, we're a quarter into it, so we've probably paid out about $25,000 in child care to date.
That includes stage 3?
That is only stage 3.
Only stage 3.
We serve both counties, and we have about $2 million in alternative payment funds that we pay out in child care between Calaveras and Amador County. The alternative funds, because this program was eliminated, these families are not eligible for transferring into other programs. We have put the families back onto the centralized eligibility list, so we did that for them. So they are on the waiting list for other funds for when those funds become available. But because of the elimination status, they weren't eligible for transferring. So we are working through our eligibility list as quickly as we can. We have notified all of our partners that also receive state funding that the children are out there, and should they have, if they're enrolling. But they do have to be taken off in order of need. So there's other families waiting in ahead of them, is what I'm trying to say.
One of the questions I have for the program is what are the additional costs that accrue to this county when people move school kids out of our schools, or when people move off of work, where they're paying taxes and back onto welfare rolls? An example would be if a child is taken out of Calaveras Unified, the ADA is lost, and that's in the neighborhood, depending on categoricals, between $3,000 and $5,000 per head. So what we're doing is we're spending $2,800 to keep a kid in school and losing to the school district up to $5,000. Most of these are kids in probably categorical income. So we're in a situation where we're saving a tiny bit of money and then spending just on the school expense. It takes, if one family leaves, we're using up pretty much the whole thing, then put the rest back into our welfare system, and the cost is almost exponentially greater than what we're saving on cutting Category 3 out of the budget.
Absolutely.
Am I reading this right?
Yes. It would be a much better decision to continue to fund the families so that they can be self-sufficient, so that they can stay, so that they can work, so that they can support their families and pay their taxes and contribute to our economy. The multiplier that we're using is about 3.5, so
Okay.
the total contract was $130,000, but again, that's a shared contract between the two counties. So about $62,000 times it by 3, and that would be your economic impact for just those families that are here in Calaveras County.
And the total amount to save that would be roughly $28,000, $29,000 for the year?
No, we would probably be...
Just the 60% that you had said that were not 0 to 5.
When we ran the numbers, it looks like we'll need about $80,000
For the whole.
For the whole, but if you take the 277 and multiply that out by 60%, that could come close. It's hard to, because that is an average number. I would have to calculate it out per family by age, which we are doing for First 5 right now for the 0 to 5 population.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The other thing that you should know is that the local child care planning council, which is an advisory to all of you, was reduced by 50% also in the budget, and so we are down to a 20% administrative assistant, and we have had to lay off the staff for that program. So we will still be coming to you and bringing the information that is required, but we do have to reduce our workload because the funding for that program was reduced.
This is the stuff. Thank you,
Yes.
Kelly.
Thank you.
You're the ones that pay the price tag.
Good morning, folks. My name is Peter Race. I'm from Valley Spring, 5th District, Rancho Calaveras. It's kind of, in a way, surprised me that state listed you as a non-compliant to reporting to the controller. You are listed as a non-compliant, potentially able to be fined. I don't think it will be, but you are non-compliant, a potential fine. In a way, it's not really.
He was just asking what that was about, and I was
Oh,
explaining.
okay. I'm
to
sorry.
him.
I'm not as.
That's fine. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Reed.
But it's reported in the paper.
It has to do with the salaries.
Okay. All employees and members of the county's salaries and benefits have to be disclosed, okay? You did report, whoever did the reporting, but it was not fully complied with the state requirements. In a way, it didn't really surprise me because for a year and a half, 2 years, I've been bugging members of the board directly, concerning Service District Number 1. And that's what really got me involved in you folks a little bit more, because some of the answers I could not get, and some of the answers I got was very disturbing. I contacted Public Works, gentlemen. He gave me a written response. A couple of weeks later, he was not with the county anymore. Maybe just a coincidence. I talked to the past CAO, your predecessors. A couple of weeks later, he was not with the county anymore. I know it's just a coincidence. It has nothing to do with my doing. Otherwise, I would have a bad conscience about it. But
They just don't want you talking to them.
a lot of people don't want me to talk to them. Yes, I don't blame them. But what concerns me also is your non-compliance with your own county code and government code, which I did give you a receipt, copy of it. No response.
You're in trouble now.
Before you get onto the board, I did comply. We did send the report in. The state did have a question, and we're rectifying.
Address them before. They always get on my case, so
Okay.
I'm going to do case.
No, that was just brought to our attention yesterday. We had filed timely. The report was due October 1st. What's the date? 26th? They are just now getting back to saying, well, we didn't like this issue, or they have a question. We're rectifying it today.
You're wonderful.
Simple.
Yes.
And what you
They
really
didn't
need
know
to
about it.
know.
How come everybody else here knows about it, but those guys don't know
We
about it?
know about it. Thank you.
We do now.
But
I want to reclaim my time on her time.
no,
That's
She's gonna get to my
fine. That's fine.
well, one thing you do need to know is that information was posted on the county website a couple of weeks ago, so it is out there, so you can.
I would never fault you,
add
Linda. You're too good. I like you too much. Anyway, going back to Service District 1, as of yet, and people who you appointed as volunteers, non-paid, who did their own time at their own expense, requested that information, never got it. The last Service District meeting from Public Works, that gentleman who promised going to give us detailed report of the finances of Service District 1. He's not with the county anymore. What's going on, folks? Why can't you come up with a detailed report and account for the money you collecting, contrary to the principles of Prop 218, charging people property-related benefit that's available to the public in general? That is gross. That's disgusting. You charging people $3 a month for a benefit that's available to everybody no charge. I'm surprised that since you all appointed yourself to be my protector on that district, none of you care. None of you know about it. None of you have the answers. That doesn't reflect you do it either intentionally or out of ignorance. One or the other. And it doesn't exactly reflect on you very good, because you all have these districts in every one of your districts. You have these special districts. Non-elected, no voters' approval, but you're still collecting it. Someplace along the line, maybe some consciousness should sit in. It is not right. There has to be accountability. You're taking money that you shouldn't be taking. It would be nice to know, so it can reflect on your efficiency and great administration of ability, to give some of these programs, and I'm not just talking about the service district. I would love to know what kind of efficiency you have on public transportation. Do you know the cost per passengers per mile at taxpayers' expense of the public transportation? Maybe it's great, but I see all these nice, big, beautiful buses the taxpayers buy, and you see 2 or 3 people using it. Would there be maybe some kind of deal that you can work out with the school district to utilize their buses that's available, or cut down on the size of those vehicles that you're using? Another thing I got to pick on you folks, there's a website on a clerk recorder's website over there that deals directly with you folks. They're supposed to give you your expense reports, conflict of interest statement, your political contributions. And you know what, folks? It's blank. It's been there for years. You don't have the time and effort, but you're so proud of your activities. Put it on a website. You're either ashamed of it, or you're too lazy. Somebody's too lazy to put it on a website.
You have
What
15
is it?
seconds left, and I
Thank
gave
you very much.
2
I don't want to
extra
abuse
minutes.
my...
Oh, I gave you 2 extra minutes.
Oh, you're wonderful. Thank you very much.
That's true.
You folks have a good day.
Thank you. And all our reporting documents are in the clerk's office, whether they're on the website.
Behind the desk.
No, they're not. You can go to the elections office and get a copy. Carol?
I am Terry Baker from Railroad Flat, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the rezoning of our property in the Blue Mountain Residential Center, which apparently the people in Valley Springs are having the same problem as we are, having it improperly and incompetently rezoned. Anyway, this letter is in response to Mr. Walensky's letter October 15th to the Calaveras Enterprise. We wish to share some information too. When a person buys land in California, they are protected by state law from having their land use or zoning changed without a strict legal notice and hearing process. This applies even to neighboring properties hundreds of feet away. Our county secretly or improperly rezoned and changed the land use of our entire 28 square mile Glencoe Railroad Flat West Point General Plan Residential Center in 2007. See for yourself. What happened to our residential center? It's still in the general plan up until 2013. The name is shortened to Blue Mountain. Try finding it in the new plan update. It's Goodbye Residential Center and hello what? Well, we need clarification and an explanation too. Please clarify or explain what the county intends to do here. The Bakers bought their small farm in 2003 and the Vieira Pentingtons in the last century in a subdivision of 5-acre farms with a 20-acre commercial ranching minimum, an unclassified U zone. We all found out by surprise that our existing use was secretly and improperly changed by the county in a general plan amendment. Now we can't even build a barn or a coop without a conditional use permit. One only costs $4,764. It's now a commercial farming and ranching center. Is that a tallow plant going up next door? Oh, thank God, it's just a hog farm. Now, you have our sympathies too, if you plan to build on rural property. Just ask Steve Walensky. He can clarify and explain it for everyone, all with no guarantees. And so can the planning department, right? And then there's the celebrated rooster war of Calaveras County. Please respond in writing as soon as possible. Sincerely, the Baker family and the Vieira Pennington family. And I'd also like to say, since I know I have some time left, you know, last week when I saw people coming up here and patting themselves on the back, for instance, Holly Mines patting herself on the back for what a great job she did in the residential center in District 2, and telling Steve Walensky what a great job they did. We don't think it was such a great job. They did it illegally, improperly, and they did it without any notification to us or our residential center. Steve, there was a notice sent out to everybody else, but not to us. And that notice clearly stated, anyone under 20 acres will not, and I will repeat that, will not be changed. And then you changed us down to even 3 and 2 acres without any notification, period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Is there anyone else who has an item?
Good morning, Bonnie
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Newman from Double Springs. Today I'd like to talk about struggling. As a home care provider, we struggle every day. I know with the journey that I've taken on my client has lasted 11 years. There's been highs, there's been lows. There's been, he's alive, but he has another tumor. He's recovering, but the tumor's growing. It's a constant struggle. There's also been a struggle that I've undertook with the system or the program. That's been a series of highs and lows also. We look to the future with hope. We've got an advisory board that may be changing the color, the flavor, the components of it. I have high hopes. Talk is cheap. I want to see action. I was really heartened with the way the advisory board went yesterday, the first advisory board that seemed to embrace everybody attending. And I felt really good about that, and everyone felt really good about it. But the disheartening thing was that I had to see the director of the welfare department pull in someone from every department to try and fill the holes and plug the gaps so that this mess that's been created can be straightened out. It's disheartening to me to know that this has been going on for 7 years, and now we're, you know, it's not going to be that the salvation of what has existed. It's got to be something new has to be created to address these issues. I'm going to read you something that I happened to find on the back of my union card, and Steve, you'll probably be able to quote this, but it's about struggle. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are people who want crops without plowing the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. That struggle might be a moral one. It might be a physical one. It might be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and never will. People might not get all they work for in this world, but they must certainly work for all they get. This is quoted from Frederick Douglass, abolitionist, 1857. True today also. We have to continue the struggle. I'm heartened that I may not have to get involved in this mess. There are so many people stepping up and wanting to get involved. Thank God I'm getting old. We need some young blood in there. We need some new blood. People who have been able to either clog up the system or protect what they have need to be replaced. A new system, a new structure needs to be created. The struggle has to go on. And I'll be there to help that struggle. If I have to jump in, I will. If I can pull back and let others take the reins, hallelujah. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Is there anyone else who has an item not on the agenda under the jurisdiction of the board?
Morning. Marty Crane, Valley Springs. From time to time, we hear about a variety of community efforts as presented here in this forum. Because you as our elected officials cannot possibly be everywhere, and because the decisions you make affect each of the 5 districts, it's an opportunity for you as well as the public at large to stay informed and to celebrate the good things that help to make Calaveras the place we choose to live and raise our families. Last week was no exception. Acknowledgements and unique awards were presented to our Public Works Department and to the amazing team at Behavioral Health. Additionally, the Valley Springs Community Plan was presented to our Board of Supervisors, representing the culmination of extensive community outreach and involvement. Some time ago, we were all inspired by the expressions of public support at the presentation of 6 or 7 community plans from District 2. More recently, the Tofanelli Committee Plan was presented with those involved expressing their support, followed by a photo op. It came as no surprise that Supervisor Tryon chose to find fault with that very process and once again cast negative and disparaging remarks at the COG for supposedly orchestrating a political rally, and because they chose to publicly recognize the valiant and diligent efforts of citizens who stepped up on behalf of their community and Calaveras County. Why is it a problem when the Valley Springs Plan is presented and was never an issue with all these other presentations? We encourage the public to get involved, and when they do, they're insulted by Supervisor Tryon. This negative and abusive behavior is inappropriate and pushes the bounds of good manners. We're now apparently planning to spend some more time discussing the public comment process. We're the public. We pay the salaries and the bills. It is our right to speak and your responsibility to not only listen, but hear our words. The public comment period works well as is, I think, and I, for one, will be more diligent in trying to stay on appropriate topic. Community is not easy, I think, but if we ensure that the appropriate conversations continue, we can absolutely get there. And just so you know, the stakeholders group in the Valley Springs Community Plan was never disbanded. It was just used when it was needed. So if anyone wanted to call something, all they had to do was call. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to move to item 4, the non-renewal. Thank you, Mary.
Good morning, Mary Mutz, Agricultural Commissioner. Item 4 of the agenda concerns a county-initiated non-renewal of California Land Conservation Contract number 233. At this point, I am asking the board to take no action on this item. On Friday, I sent you an email providing you with an update on the status of this item, and that same memo should have been included in your packet this morning. Since the middle of the original agenda item, the landowners have worked with me, as well as a member of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. The landowners have come into compliance with the terms of the Williamson Act. They have submitted their annual reports of agricultural production, each meeting the $2,000 requirement. They're prepared to submit their 2010 report of agriculture, and they are also working on finding another lease agreement. So with that said, I am asking the board to take no action on this agenda item, which will allow contract number 233 to continue.
Is there
I
any
would make a motion that this item be withdrawn from the agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Are we being asked to withdraw it from the agenda or to take an action of no action?
Well, withdraw.
May I ask council to answer for that, the answer to that question? I don't know.
Do they need an affirmative reversal of the recommendation?
Well, the only effective action would be the non-renewal. If you do nothing,
We
then
don't
the
need to do
contract
anything.
continues.
Then that works.
Is there any public comment on this? Okay, so the motion is to take no action, which we really don't have to do. But since there was a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to move to item 5, a minute order for the pre-qualification of general contractors. So, Mr. Evans, is it you or Ms. Boyd? Or are you team doing
I think
this?
we're tag teaming it. I don't know that we have any presentation. It's really here for discussion with
Okay,
the board.
all right, so I thought, the board packet was fairly clear. Are there any questions or comments to
This is
Mr.
just a
Evans?
requirement of state law, is it not, for the contracts?
It's not necessarily a requirement.
No.
You don't have to pre-qualify, but we've chosen to pre-qualify to try to get a more select pool of general contractors to bid the job.
Russ, do you have
And
any
it's
questions?
definitely allowed by the Public Contract Code and the Department of Industrial Relations.
Yes, Mr. Evans, one thing sort of piqued my interest here is on the pre-qualification appeal process.
Your page, please.
Oh, this is on 6 of 29.
Okay, thank you.
I did a little arithmetic there. This is concerning the appeal process of a contractor submits his application and or his request to be included on the list, and for some reason he is deemed not to be on the list. There's an appeal process. It seems like to me that if when he goes through that appeal process, if everything went according to the schedule that you've got in here, he would only have a little over 20 days to prepare his bid. That strikes me as for a $40 million project, that's a little tight.
I've done the same math, and I'd like to perhaps offline compare it, because in going through this, my math indicated that they would be through the process if the maximum time was taken, except for the 30 days we've got to review their pre-qualification. I cut that down to 14 because that's our plan. We put in 30 just to allow ourselves some free time, but we plan to get back to the contractors in 2 weeks. That would be January 4th, and that's the date we're anticipating putting the project on the street to bid, and our bids are currently scheduled, and it's subject to some flexibility for mid-February, and I've also factored in another 2 weeks just in case the contractors request a time extension. So in reality, the schedule shows bidding of the project first week in March.
Okay. All right, so you anticipated that there might be a crunch there, and
We put some extra time in the schedule to cover.
All right. Actually, that was my only concern.
Mr. Tuffanelli, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I spoke to Doug earlier about some concerns, and I think I talked to him yesterday about it, so I'm
Mr. Walensky?
I just want to keep restating my desire that this process involve as many local contractors and local jobs as possible. And so toward that end, while there's not much you can put into a document like this, there is a way to get notice out in an affirmative way to everybody who moves in this county. And I'm hoping that step is being taken.
We're planning to do that. One of our plans is to, once we have pre-qualified contractors, is to have a a meeting with those pre-qualified contractors and local material suppliers and local contractors, give them the opportunity to interact with each other, give the locals the ability to understand what's required for the generals to use them. And I would hope that the locals would be more cost effective because they don't have to commute, they don't have to bring materials in. So I would think that would hopefully be advantageous for the local community.
Thank you.
Mr. Chiant, did you have any other questions?
I do not.
Okay. May I have any public comments on this minute order? May I have a motion on the minute order? Okay, dies for a lack of a second. I'm afraid there's nothing you can do.
I'll move.
I'll move the item, Madam. The minute order approving request for pre-qualification of general contractors seeking to bid on the Calaveras Adult Detention Facility and the Sheriff's Administration building documents.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Always works. Thank you.
I would like to
I
say,
did it.
One day it may not.
It may not, then that's fine. That's the choice of the board.
I would like to point out one other thing, just a point of information. The Public Works Board approved the preliminary plans for the jail and admin project yesterday in their meeting.
Tom, just a second. I can't hear what they said.
The Public Works Board approved the plans for the project yesterday, the preliminary plans for the project in their meeting yesterday. So that's one more box that's checked off through the state process.
Good, thank you.
Good
Tom,
job.
did you want to,
Thank you.
Tom, do you want to take a break?
Well, let me just ask for a clarification of my first question. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm in error here, that the qualifications that we are pre-qualifying for are in fact basically state requirements. What we're doing is pre-qualifying, but if we didn't pre-qualify, they'd still have to meet those specifications. It would just be a broader group of contractors that would be bidding. Is that my understanding?
Not exactly. We could bid this project, open it up to any general contractor that could submit a bid on the project. We've got some criteria in here. Because this is a jail project, we're requiring any contractor that we're going to pre-qualify to have built at least a $25 million jail before.
Okay, and that's not state. That's not a state requirement.
That's not a state requirement, but we're making that project specific.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear. What we are doing that's discretionary and what we're doing that's really not discretionary, we're just doing it earlier than we would otherwise do it. Okay.
We've also had 10 contractors already contact me requesting the pre-qualification package in anticipation of your approval. So,
In the qualifications, how many? What are the qualifications that are not required by state law? You gave one example that they have to have built a $25 million jail, have a history of having built a $25 million jail or greater. What were the other ones that are discretionary to the board?
there are three primary ones. The first is that they have done a $40 million public building project. And the reason for that is this is anticipated to be a $40 million job, so we want a contractor that has done this level of work before. The second is the $25 million jail project or juvenile hall project or prison project, a corrections type project, so they're familiar with the corrections construction. The third is one more project of $25 million in the public arena.
Okay. I have no problem with those, so that's fine. And we're getting, you believe that will give us a broad enough group to which we can receive a competitive bid?
I believe it will. We've also got the right under this pre-qualification to reduce the requirements if we find we're not getting enough responses.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. I thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you.
I'll probably stay for the contracts the next one.
Okay, we can do that.
Just in case.
Mr. Jones, do you want to take item 6 on the ground lease grant?
Sure. These somewhat complicated documents are probably best just easily understood if you remember that the specific jail site is an island in the middle of county property. And the documents are drafted from the point of view of the bond market, since bonds have to be sold to finance the project. The bond market wants to see that the state has the right to a site of a jail on the island in the middle of the county property. So that explains the ground lease, which provides that there's a 50-year lease for that specific location, that utilities will be provided. It's redundant. It contains the same language that we indemnify the state for claims. We recognize that bonds don't have to be sold, so there's a lot of redundancy in it. But fundamentally, that's the purpose, is to reassure the bond market that the state has the right to use the location. Since that specific location is surrounded by county property, the other document provides an easement across the county property to the jail site. And finally, since the leasehold will be in favor of the state, there is another document that states pretty much the obvious, that the county will have access to the leasehold property for the purpose of constructing a jail. Could have been done, the documents could have been structured differently, but I have no problem with the way they're being done. And that's the structure of these three agreements that are before you for approval today.
Are there any questions of council or Mr. Evans? This is just not the operation, it's just the lease agreement for the land. It's not for the facility.
That's correct. I don't see anything in here that covers the operation.
And the $10, it's doomed to be prepaid 50 years in advance.
We're good, yeah. We've already paid our rent.
And that's going to come off, and that's going to be added to the $26 million that they're giving us? It's all right. What else?
Was that biting sarcasm? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
What does this give them? Does this give them entree at any time? Or that the state can walk on the property? I mean, it is the state jail that we operate.
It ensures that the state representatives will have full access to the jail.
Okay, that's fine.
And there are some provisions where that they have right to inspect. They have to give us reasonable notice and try to schedule inspections in a way that don't disrupt our operations.
But they do that now anyway. They do a jail inspection for Title 15 and 27.
That's true, but it includes inspection during the construction phase.
Is that part of the deal so that contractors will know that the state, just as an aside, it's sort of like, who is the inspector on the job? The state?
No.
Or the
we'll
county?
have inspectors on the job. We'll independently hire inspectors on the
That
job.
are experienced in jail
Yes.
construction. And
And
the
the county will
administrative building will be the county does the inspection?
Yes, we're going to permit the administrative building just like any other building in the county, so the county will do inspection. But we'll also do the same level of inspection with the independent inspectors we're hiring. They'll look at both buildings. We won't just leave it to the county only.
That's not on the agenda. Okay, are there any more questions or comments? Are there any questions or comments from the public? Mr. Reese, could you please come up? Thank you.
Don't go too far.
And identify yourself again for the record.
I thought you did for me. My name is Peter Reyes, Rancho Calaveras. On the pre-qualifications, and you brought up a good
That
point.
was the item before this.
Yes, but he didn't leave, so I didn't have a chance to comment.
All right.
Question.
Go ahead.
Out of respect. Is there any way the discretionary pre-qualifications that the Board of Supervisors has, is there any way they can put in a pre-qualification to enhance local subcontractor? Because I'm not aware of too many big contractors in Calaveras County who can do a job like this. But is there any way that the board can insert the request or...
It is. It is in
Is it in
here.
there? Okay.
Yes, it is. Item
Okay.
39.
that enhance the
on
local
page-
subcontractors?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Thank you very
The
much.
local involvement will be the subcontractor.
And
He testified he was going to have a meeting once to familiarize them with all the subs.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much, sir.
Right. I understand that the document calls for each bidder to outline what they would do to enhance local hiring and subcontracting. I'm also interested in what mechanism we will have to judge those responses and whether people will get extra points or whether there's a way to build in not just the information flow, but an advantage to people who make guarantees of this. One is words. We'll get plenty of that, I'm sure. The question is what leverage and what ability do we have to make that to bring that home, and not by enforcement, but by incentive and either by raising the points for people who are guaranteeing local hiring and local subcontracting, or having some kind of mechanism for that to be part of the agreement.
What often happens in counties, especially larger counties, is they'll have a program where they actually identify local contractors, they'll make an application, they'll review their application, and they'll certify them as a local contractor. And then there's a pool established, and at that point you can require a general contractor to have 10, 15, 20, 25% from that pool. Unfortunately, Calaveras County doesn't have that, and it's a significant effort to put that type of a small local business program in place. Alameda County has one, Santa Clara County has one.
Yes, I'm familiar with those.
Yeah.
Is there a rural example of that? And if so, how did they accomplish it? Is it through the chamber, through the EDCs,
The county.
mother lode job training, or is it the county itself that does that?
It would normally be through the county. Yeah. And I don't.
We haven't found a rural
Yeah.
example of that.
And you'd have to have.
Well, we could be first.
Yeah.
We could.
If we had
Our,
more time
and
and
our 3% preferences on services and supplies
Yes. Yes.
only, not
Services,
for.
supplies, and materials, I believe.
But what you're saying is some of this is policy driven,
Yeah.
and we don't have something in place that can be used as that mechanism.
That's correct. If we require contractors to have 10% local participation, we have to define and let them know what local is. If we don't, then it's left up to them, and it's really unenforceable.
I would assume that would be something we might want to work on.
We understand the direction the board's given with regards to local hires. I think how we accomplish that, I agree, we need to look at how we rate and rank. But we really don't have the sufficient time or staffing to create our own program, per se, like the larger counties for this. But we clearly understand and want to hire as many local contractors as possible.
Well, why wouldn't something like the Builders Association or some organization devoted to this be willing to step up?
They might be. I mean, we'll have that conversation with Jeff, who's a participant in that organization.
Well, since I'm the one that seems to always disagree on this discussion, let me just state my disagreement. I'm not really in favor of a preference, per se. What I'm interested in is just making sure that, to the extent possible, the local contractors are able to bid and to enter the process. So we don't structure it such that they can't meet the bonding, they can't meet this, they can't meet that, even though they're very well qualified to do the work. So my interest is in structuring it in such a way that they can competitively bid on the work, but not to basically give a cost preference that drives up the cost of the project to the citizens as a whole, and then they start bidding the preference. And I'm not interested in bidding the preference. I'm interested in a competitive bid, but I'm interested within that competitive process that the local contractors that meet the quality of work standard aren't kept out of the process by other requirements, whether it be bonding or other such requirements. I want them to come in and be able to competitively bid, but I'm not in favor of raising the cost of the project to the citizens by offering preferences. So that's my...
And we're trying to encourage that through the workshop to get the local contractors. Sometimes local contractors don't know how to get in contact with a San Francisco contractor or a Los
Yeah,
Angeles
I mean,
contractor.
we need to
or a
make
Houston
all the
contractor.
avenues open so that they have access to the process. That's what I'm interested in, access to the bidding process, and not so much trying to rig the outcome of the bidding process by driving the cost of the project up to the citizens as a whole. So that's my thought.
I think I asked for any public comments or questions on this item because Mr. Race got up and talked about the prior item. But that's okay. Not that I noticed. I'd like to bring it back to the board for a motion on a minute order.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Pulling motions out of y'all today is really hard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Mr.
Now that I made a
Jones.
motion, you better not screw this project up, Jen. That's all I have to say.
All this
We're all a little
is just-
appalled by the dollar amounts involved in all of this, and, please get this right.
Linda, did you want to take a minute recess or ready?
Let's do it.
Mr.
Then I
Jones?
don't have to try to turn it off.
Did that prior item get reviewed by the Legal Access Committee?
What's that?
Did that, no?
You know, the reason I ran for the Board of Supervisors is so that I would have some input into the budget cover. That's the only reason I ran.
You're not leaving
So
now?
thank God it's here.
Should be disqualified.
That's the only thing I'm qualified to do.
I'm not voting for anything, a picture of anything on Tryon Ranch. Just
So for the fun project this year, get to select the budget cover. We only have 8 submissions this year, so it won't be quite as long as previous years. I think our record was 32 or 33. Yeah, we had a lot, and it was hard to get you guys all to remember who liked which one, first, second, third. Anyway, so it should be easier this year.
is that one?
That's the generic.
I like that one the best.
There's the Tryon Ranch.
Pretty neat.
That's Moran.
Moran Road there. Let's see, Captain Davis's place.
Okay, supervisors, do you want to go across the top, 1, 2, 3, second row, 4, 5, 6, and the bottom 2, 7, 8? Russ, do you want to give with your maybe first and second choice?
My first choice would be picture 2. Second choice would be picture 1.
Gary?
I like picture 2. And picture, well, I like 1 and 5 too. So you put 1.
2, 1, and 5, or 2, 5?
1, 2. 2 would be number 1, and then number 5, and then number 1.
Steve?
Number 1 and number 2.
Tom?
What'd you say your second one was?
2.
2. Mine would be, my first choice is number 1, and my second choice would be number 3.
Actually, I like 3 too.
Okay, so we're down to, and mine is 3 and 2. So we do not have, we have 4 for number 2. We have, including Gary's third.
Including what?
Well, I'm going to just go, we have
3 for
2 for number 1, well, because that's 3 and I asked, 3, thank you. 3 for number 1, and we have 1 for number 3. I'm really, 2 for number 3. 3 for number 1, and...
She was a
and 2, okay.
math major in college, right?
I am, considering I used to be a bookkeeper, not an accountant, yeah. Okay, so we'll go for 2, 1, and 3. So, which one would be your first choice? I'll
Number
start.
2.
Yours is number 2.
Mine also.
Okay. Steve?
1.
Tom?
Just any of the top 3 are fine with me. But
Then I'll make it number 3.
I'll still go with 1 as my first and 3 is my second choice, which is what I stated initially, since none of my choices fell out. But the top row is all fine with me.
Okay, so we have 2 for 2, 2 for 1. Good thing we only have 8. And then,
take all
I
day.
know.
didn't
And
have this
then
Much trouble
So we're
with
down to 1 and
30,
2.
we're down to 1 and 2.
So
Could you blow them up?
And she's
Could
the new.
Could you blow them up, please?
Is that going to help you, Marina?
No, I want you. I want you to know, when we did the one, I think out at Salt Valley with that little house,
Yes.
it really lost its impact when it went on the book. So that's all I'm saying. And that's number 2.
This one's very patriotic.
No applause for the Boy Scouts of America and the American flag.
It's too dark on the list.
Okay. Considering all we've been through the last year with Gavin, I think I'll go with number 2.
Right.
I think when we've had action pictures or people in them, they've always stood out more than, as much as I think we need a rainbow in our life.
We need the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is what we really need.
Next year.
So that's it. And Linda and I were talking about taking all the photos and maybe putting them on the back of the book with the all of them, something like you showed. So one, we could maybe generate interest again.
Yeah.
It's wherever, I thought it on the back, but it's wherever. And then if we could put the photographers' names if possible, I mean, I'd leave that up to you. Then maybe someday we'll be back to 32. We'll have to schedule an afternoon session, what?
I can tell you who the photographer is at the Wednesday.
Yes, please. Oh,
Can you put it back up there?
That was when,
I want to ask a question. The kid on the left, on just above, on his left shoulder, is that Tom Tryon standing there?
If it is, could you cut him out?
Can you Photoshop it?
When you put it on the cover, expand that photo in the background there, please.
that was the Veterans Day celebration with Rick Walker's project.
Right.
Yeah.
Out front here.
Yeah. Okay, that's done. Thank you. Linda.
Great.
Thank you,
Excellent choice.
Chris. I think all you get's an atta girl out of this and a copy of the budget book, right?
We do put a little story on the inside cover about the artist and why they took the photo.
Okay, thank you. Is everybody still okay? You need a break? All right, I'd like to move then to item 8, since our auditor's still here.
Okay, right. We have some updates to the attached Exhibit A that was just passed out. On behalf of all the departments that have receivables that we track throughout the year, then we also have to track the collections on the receivables. We're asking the board to write off as of June 30th. So what we write off today will be included in the current year's financial report. So this will be the entire amounts receivable, except Public Works did have a couple that they're still trying to collect. Does anyone have any questions on the process, or, you know, each department could come separately on their own, but to me it just seems easier to do this once every few years and lump everyone together.
So your recommendation is to adopt Exhibit A as revised, the new.
Yeah, the revised Exhibit A,
And the other
which
one has
the
no
total was
relevance
$8,431.47. And this is for a 6-year period, basically. So that's really not very much
Yeah, that's
over
a low.
6 years.
Does any board member have a question on this?
Yeah, Linda, could you define for me what is meant by the phrase employee insurance receivables?
Okay, that's various different insurances for different departments. We do, there were a couple of employees that owed a small amount, or there was a mix-up in paying on their insurance, and then they died, and there was no way to recover funds. You know, we have a little movement. Sometimes an employee is off on a leave, and we pay their health insurance up front, and then they quit. And sometimes, you know, it just depends if we know if they owe at the time that when they leave and they receive their last paycheck. Sometimes they've received a paycheck and they're still on the books because like they're on administrative leave and they're not paid. So anyway, there's a bunch of different scenarios. I think one, we had overpaid on SDI, and the state will only reimburse 3 years, which we did recapture 3 years of SDI overpayments. But before that, you know, we have to write off. So it's just a little bit of quite a few different scenarios.
But kind of boring down to what my concern is that it's safe to say that there's nobody that is currently employed that
absolutely.
that we're writing off some obligation that they might have. So.
No, if they were currently employed, we would withhold it from their paychecks.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question. On the library, $374.60. Is that overdue fines?
Well, you know, that may seem like a lot, but remember, it's over 6. Well, you can see the individual years, but what you don't see, each one of those may be $5, $3, so there's a bunch of them. It's not like one amount, one person.
Right, yeah, I understand.
And it's not just one library. So that would be for all the libraries in the county per year, which is really not a lot.
I have one other question on the new sheet that you handed out. There's a development services.
Mm-hmm.
What does that entail?
Community Development Department.
Well, no, I thought it was when you asked, and I see the org key. It's actually developmental services, and that could be for it was probably a permit or something.
That's the one where surveyor's office and their driveway permits and stuff like that is all processed.
So, and we call it development because I asked that same question of and we thought it was community development. Is there any other word for that? I mean, should we be saying public works / surveyor, or?
Well, we could talk to Tom and see if you'd like to rename that. That would be fine.
I mean, it's like going from trust fund to designated fund, you know.
Right.
Sometimes things change their life cycle. Okay. Any other questions, Gary? Steve, Tom, do you have any questions?
No.
Does the public have any questions on this? Mr. Reyes, please. Could you please come up? Thank you, you're on record.
Say you again.
What's the total amount of this write-off?
$8,431.
Okay.
47 cents.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? I'd like to bring it back to the board and see if they can step forward with a motion on the resolution.
I'll muster that.
You'll muster that? I'll muster a second to that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you very much. I'd like to go to item number 9. This is the appointment to the California State Association of Counties. I am the board representative. I'd like to continue unless there's any concerns from the board, and then I will smack you.
Well, Marita, you may smack me. I mean, I'm for you continuing until the board makes their normal appointments to various boards and commissions, and that's the way we always did it.
Not this one, Tom.
Well, until CSAC changed it.
It's been this way for years.
Well, what I'd like to do is just continue this to the meeting in January where we make all board appointments to all boards and commissions and send a letter to CSAC and saying until that is done that you and the alternate will remain the board's representatives. But I think we should appoint, we make all the other appointments at the meeting after or whatever board members or elected officials are sworn in January. And I think all the, this is not a reflection on you. I'm just saying I think all of the appointments should be made at that time. And we make trade-offs. We see what's going on. I think in fairness to the process, that this should be continued with a letter until that meeting in January, and then a letter be sent, and I would make a motion, a substitute motion here that a minute order be sent, passed, and sending a letter to CSAC saying that Marita, and who's the alternate? Is that you, Gary?
Oh, no, it's Russ.
That Marita as the board's representative and Russ as the alternate will continue in place until the board makes a final decision in January. And I think that's only fair and appropriate. And it comes after the election, which is why we schedule it in January and after the swearing in of new elected officials, whether it be board members or otherwise. And I think that's a fair process. And I think that process should continue. And I don't know why CSAC has decided that they have to somehow have a different process for their representatives. So those are my thoughts.
Well, this is the process they've had for years, Tom, because of the
I've
annual...
always said I'm very uncomfortable with it. And
No, you've never said that.
Yes, I have said I'm uncomfortable with it before.
Tom brings up the I think the deciding for me issue, which is that the CSAC requires our appointees for a year, and this is the 2011 association year, but they begin their year on November 16th of 2010. So I don't see why we would have a truncated term. We're doing this for, and we do this for other agencies as well. They decide, not we, what their term of office is.
I agree with that. I totally agree with what's being said here. That January is the month that we do all of this, and I don't see why we should make an exception here. After the swearing-in process, we have our January meeting. We generally do this, and I'll support it.
Well, what I was suggesting is that because our people take office on November 16th, that we make that appointment now in order to catch that in time. If the board in January decides to remove somebody from office, we always have that authority. But that's
an entirely different action. That
right.
sends a whole different signal. I don't want
right.
to.
Well, that's.
I don't like that as a process myself.
I would support Tom's motion. I will second Tom's motion if it was a motion. Was it a motion?
Well, unless there's further board discussion, I guess you can do it after. Okay, I'll just make a motion that the board, under this item, continue the selection of a new member and alternate until we make the appointments in January, and that we would forward a letter to CSAC stating that our current appointees, Marita as the primary and Russ as the alternate, will continue in place until that appointment is made.
I'll second.
Any further discussion by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes on a 3-2.
Madam Chair, was there any public input?
No, this is a board appointee. Board makes their own appointments to committees.
It would be nice to know a little bit more about the subject matter, what this is for, do the cost, the taxpayers, and so on. Identify this for, and I really appreciate this report. It'd be nice to
Could you
know.
please come up? Thank you.
No, I'm not questioning what you folks did, okay? Because I don't know enough about it. For a mentally challenged somebody like me, I would like to know what is this Board of Supervisors? What is the membership cost? What is it being decided?
It's the board representative to the California State Association of Counties, which is a lobbying organization for the 58 California counties. There's one representative from every county in the state on their board.
One more question. How much does it cost the
I
taxpayers
think
to be
it's
a membership?
about $10,000 or $12,000.
How about $15,000?
Could be. I don't have the budget book in front of me.
And do we have any kind of documentation, what you folks do? Who runs that board? The qualification of those people in the board?
The board is our county supervisors.
Yeah.
Okay, but is there somebody who runs it?
Yeah, there's an
Yes,
executive.
you can
there's
look
an
it up on the
executive
website.
officer.
Okay, because I noticed it's a nice chunk of money, plus in the
Yes.
expenses that you make in behalf of the community and taxpayers. It would be nice to get a little bit more feedback, how you justify that kind of club membership and expenses that the county pay out
We
on your
belong to
behalf.
two organizations, the California State Association of Counties and the Regional Council of Rural Counties, of which Supervisor Tryon is the supervisor representative on that.
But it's each one of them costs $15,000?
No, I don't
they're
know
not.
what.
I don't know off the top of my head. I could ask the clerk recorder. We can get that information for you. It's in the budget book under the.
Because I looked at your
RCRC
expense
is
report.
much less, but it's a different organization.
Okay, no, I mean, I just noticed in
Rural counties.
quite a bit of chunk of,
Yeah.
nowadays when we have such a tight budget,
Yeah.
to put out $15,000 of taxpayers' money plus expenses.
There's
nice
not
to know the
any
justification.
expenses. I eat most of the expenses of going to the meetings.
Okay,
And
where's
I'm
it
on
held?
some of the mostly in Sacramento.
Is public invited? Do you have,
Yeah.
You can go.
It's a Brown Act.
okay,
It's a-
is it a Brown
Organization.
Act?
So is RCRC, it's a Brown Act
Okay, thank you very much.
organization. And Maria can correct me if I'm in error here, but I think every county in the state of California belongs to CSAC. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it is an important organization that represents county interests at the state
It would be
level.
nice if people share it with the public too.
Yeah, you can look it up on the website also. I'll give you that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'd like to move to item 10, resolution approving the road impact mitigation fee annual report.
Good morning, Deborah Mullen, Public Works. The resolution before you this morning has two parts.
both of which are maintenance activities for the road impact mitigation fee program. And I brought a few of the board packets in the annual report for anybody in the public likes to see. Reports are coming down here. So the annual report shows what the RIM fee expenditures and expenses for fiscal year 09-10.
Charge him.
Pardon?
Charge him.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else can get copies from the website, the county website, Public Works website, or the Public Works Department for the cost of making copies. Okay, so the annual report shows that during the reporting period, the program collected $165,000 and earned $108,000 in interest, and the final balance as of the end of 09-10 was $7.5 million.
7.5.
And so the annual report follows the government code section and answers each question in turn, describes the fee, and the RIM fee pays for the cost of improvements on the regional road system that's made necessary by the impacts of new development. And the amount of the fee was amended last year in May, brought up from $3,300 for residential unit to $4,062, with the non-residential uses increased as in accordance with that. Okay, so that it has the beginning and ending amounts and the interest and the projects that were funded with RIM funds. So in that year, $23,500 was expended on the Mountain Ranch Road turnouts, the preliminary engineering on those, and those are for the turnouts projects. The State Route 1226 improvements, $6,000 was expended there, and that was also on environmental work. And the RIM fee the RIM funds are limited to that portion for new development. So on the Mountain Ranch, there's a maximum of 13.4% of the project that can be paid by RIM dollars. The 1226 is 22%, and then funds were also expended on the Murphy's Grade Road safety improvements. I don't have another with me. The guardrail project, and that was also for preliminary engineering for that project. So upon review of the annual report, there's a section of the resolution to approve that, and it was made available to the public as required by code 15 days in advance, and it was published in the paper. Okay. So the department is not recommending any updates to the project list at this time because to make any substantive changes would require a new nexus study, and as you know, we'll do the nexus study upon completion of the general plan update with the new circulation element, which will identify land uses and roads that will get the impacts of new development. So the project list before you, including the priority project list, is the same as you approved last May when the program was updated. A third part that we could do as the part of the maintenance of the program would be to increase the fee in accordance with the construction cost index. The department is not recommending that increase at this time. If we were it would be a $127 increase per the equivalent dwelling unit, which would bring for a home, the RIM fee up to $4,189. And we can discuss that and bring it back to the board if you would like us to do that. And I'm available for questions.
Does the board have any questions or comments of Deborah?
Deborah, I have a number of questions. If you look at, this is the second on the overside, the annual report side where you get the categories listed and the fee per unit. I don't think that I was around when these fees were established, but can you explain to me why the highway commercial is at $10.60 a square foot and everything else is in the range of $2 a square foot? There's an office, the offices are $5 a square foot, but it just seems like that we may be kind of providing a disincentive for highway commercial with that fee being so high.
I think that this item in the Nexus study was imagined as the gas station that you get off the freeway to go to. We haven't had any. Doesn't mean that any development on a highway, on a state highway, gets this rate. Generally, we've been using the general service commercial or general retail, depending on the size of the shopping center. To my knowledge, we have never imposed that $10 square foot.
Okay.
And it could be something that we fix because we don't have any of that kind of a freeway.
Okay, well, I don't know whether it jumped off the page at anybody else, but it just seems to me that if our concern is, and as I think it should be, about economic vitality and attracting business here, and if we have something like that listed on a page without an explanation, and if we're not charging it, I would certainly be recommending that we think about removing it or putting it in the greater category of general service commercial. The other thing that appears to be absent here is that we have the fees collected and we have all this list of projects that are, you can tell at a glance where they are within the county, but I don't see any geographic summary about where the fees are coming from. I'd like to see that. I don't know whether any of the other members
I
of the
would think
board.
that would definitely be an element of be both in the circulation, the general plan update and the new Nexus study. But yes, that level of analysis did not go into this. This was simply a tracking of the...
Yeah. But would there, just let me ask the members of the board, would there be any resistance to having that come forward as a more detailed report in the future after we go through the general plan update and the Nexus study is done? It seems to me that it would be beneficial to anybody looking at this information to see not only where we're proposing to spend these dollars, but where the dollars were generated.
I recall now that information was part of the funding options study that was done at the end of 2008, beginning of 2009 by GFS, Government Financial Strategies. They pulled the information from the building department permits that showed where those fees did come from. And I can retrieve that information for you as of that time, and we can do that again.
So what you're just saying is the next time we have the annual, we're not asking you to do it at this time, but you might like to just do a refresher for the board to send them what you already have.
We'll do that.
Is that
sufficient? Yes, that concludes my comments.
Mr. Tuffanelli, did you have any?
Nope.
Mr. Walensky, Mr. Tryon?
I have no comments, no questions.
Okay, does the public have any questions or comments on this? Please come forward.
My name is Peter Race, Valley Spring. The only thing that I would hope for that, oh, by the way, I want to say it publicly, this lady is fantastic. She's cooperative, she's helpful.
The first time I've ever heard anything, so
No, really,
kudos to you, Deborah.
Really, that's really great.
It's a high
I want to take
standard
across
to
the
meet.
question, that information you requested. I really agree with you on that one. But I'd like to expand a little bit. It would be nice if we could, you folks could, compare what other counties' cost benefits ratio you can have, because it never occurred to me, like, remember that bicycle fiasco we had a couple of months ago? And it came to me what we charge in this county compared to what other counties charge. I mean, that's brought some reality to my mind. But if we could do the same thing to what other counties, neighboring counties charge, so are we within the range, or are we ridiculously out?
We are ridiculously out. We're ridiculously low.
We're low.
We're one of the lowest in the.
That would be nice, reassuring. It would benefit your.
El Dorado has 12,000 plus for a single-family dwelling. Ours is 2. It was argued.
Ours is 4.
Oh, excuse me, 4. And the multiples are even greater on commercial up there. For a long time, we argued that having no RIM fee, we were one of the last to do this, and took a threat of lawsuit to actually implement. But we argued that having no RIM fee would somehow be an incentive to develop and grow. As it turned out, the places that grew were the ones that had the infrastructure to accommodate it, and the RIM fees were what paid the infrastructure in places like El Dorado County.
Now, it would be a feather in your cap, and public would appreciate your program policies, so you could see what it compares to different counties.
You'll actually, that's available to you, and I'm sure that can be provided.
Okay.
We've
Thank you
done
very
that
much.
before. You're welcome, Mr. Reese. Does anyone else have any comments they'd like to make on this item?
Good morning. My name is Dave Haley, and due to the difficulty of providing input prior to an analysis being done in the future, I'd like to recommend that you consider the 4 following issues when you do the RIM program review at the general plan amendment stage. One is the wisdom of assessing local commercial properties considering its impact on economic development. 2, understanding the relationship of residential versus commercial for not double counting. 3, identification of regional road improvements in each district and the fees collected and the assessment allocations to the road improvements. And 4, review of the project list for possible changes, including priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. We did discuss your third one quite extensively. I believe you were here also when we tried to determine should it be regional or where the money's collected, it's spent, and the fact that it was for increased capacity, which crosses district lines, and so we decided that the RIM fee would be collected but used countywide based on priority versus, for example, in Steve's district where very little might be collected, but he would have a road of regional significance. So we've discussed, it's not that we couldn't do it again, but we spent a lot of time discussing that very issue. And when we do the update, I'm sure we'll discuss that again.
We received it.
The reason for that particular comment was just an example. The town of Copperopolis will be contributing over $50 million to the RIM fees, and yet there's no assignment of any regional roads within Copper, yet we think there is, and we think just in fairness, a fair share of that should stay locally. That's the reason why I brought that up.
Now, understand that I'm sure we'll have that conversation again. Are there any other comments? I'd like it to bring it back to the board if there's no further discussion. I'd
Madam
like a resolution.
Chair, I move the resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor?
And that includes the approval of the report, correct?
Both, yeah. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. I'd like to go to item 11. Mr. Walensky.
Yes, I wanted to correct a misimpression that came up during public comment that has actually been said so many times that people are beginning to believe it. The process by which 24 square miles of District 2 was rezoned from unclassified and mostly unclassified to other zonings, and from 1/2 acre and 1 acre subdivision for the entire 24 square miles, which included the towns and everything in between of Railroad Flat, Glencoe, West Point, and Wilseyville, was quite extensive. Number one, every single person that we had good addresses for, this was thousands of people, received notice of the change. We had 2 public hearings, and we had at least 4 town hall meetings, which hundreds of people attended and discussed and voted on. We had a meeting here in this room, which packed this hall and everything outside in the foyer, as well as spreading into the area out in front of this building. Couldn't accommodate everybody, and they had to do some kind of special speaker system so people could follow it. The amount of involvement was extensive because nobody in that area wanted their future land use to be one big giant town center incorporating all those 4 towns and everything in between. It was also found not to be legally defensible because there was no open space between 4 towns. That was a polled, we also surveyed, and it was a large response that had 87% of the people did not want it that way. What happened secretly, or what happened without a lot of process, was putting it all into 1/2 acre and 1 acre subdivision. The landowners themselves did not want that. That all came to the fore, and that's how we finally came into legal compliance in that portion of District 2, and at the same time took out an antiquated land use designation of unclassified. This was intended to be an interim until the community plans and the general plan was adopted. It was thought at the time that that would take 2 years. As it turns out, it took a little bit more. But those things all have been discussed, and each town has put forward a community plan that will give a more detailed designation and won't be such a broad brushstroke. But what happened was that the general plan lawsuit that had been planned to shut down the whole county for all development was averted by that agreement. The gentleman who keeps coming up here, which is associated with the chicken war, neglects to mention that it was found a 1.5 years after that his address was not in the system, and I believe that the previous owner had been notified, but there had not been an update to the county documents toward that. And that's unfortunate, and it was corrected when it was brought to the attention of the county, but that's the reason that one person out of thousands did not get their notice of the change and the hearings. For that, I certainly feel bad about it, but it wasn't because we did something that was secret, sublegal. Quite the contrary. It was an attempt by this county to get square with our legal obligations, and it was approved by this board in a public hearing, after a public hearing, I should say. So just after hearing this stuff for the last 1.5 years, I thought it might help for people to know that information at least. Check the record, it's true. As regards my obligations for this week, I have the Amador-Calaveras consensus meeting on forestry over in Amador County this week. Sierra Nevada Conservancy conference call, and a Floating Islands, the Floating Islands tour, which is the new company that's located in Calaveras County in District 2, is going to have a tour at 4 p.m. At the Garamendi Ranch. Fish and Game is hosting that tour. I have the Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency board meeting in Coulterville on Friday, and that is all I have to report.
Mr. Child.
I do not have anything to bring before the board today, Madam Chair.
Mr. Tuffanelli.
I will be tomorrow evening, or this evening, excuse me, and tomorrow evening at Town Hall in San Andreas for the FEMA MAP meetings that are being conducted by FEMA. I also have down here that I will try to make this Fish and Game field trip to the Floating Islands at 4 o'clock. I don't know if we're going to be out on an island. I'll have to swim back to be to the Town Hall at 6, or...
You're not going to...
No, you'll be on shore.
I'll be on shore, okay.
It's untested,
So you won't be
it's
there
untested as to ability to carry
the fuel that's being included.
I'm going to make the FEMA MAP meeting.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think that's more important. I will also be for the Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency meeting at 10 a.m. in Coulterville at the Community Center at Broadway and Cemetery Lane in Coulterville. And I will not have any expenses for that. I'll pay for them all out of my own pocket. That's all that I have, Madam.
Mr. Thomas.
Okay, I also will be attending the FEMA MAP discussion at the Town Hall on both Tuesday night and Wednesday night. And I'm happy to say that there's a ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow at 11:30 down at the Jenny Lynn Firehouse to commemorate the very quick and efficient conclusion of the water line installation down there in the Delee-Cassidy neighborhood. The Tykert Construction was the low bidder on that project at about $800,000. They were awarded the contract assuming a 100-day construction schedule. They started the project on September 27th, and they're done. So it's quite remarkable that they got it done so quickly, and the people living in the neighborhoods that are soon to be their arduous task of hauling water up to 2 times a day is ended. So that's really quite remarkable. Okay, and I will also be going to the floating island thing on Wednesday.
But you're going to be leaving?
I will be.
Okay.
Yeah. Did this water project involve actually the main trunk, but did it actually include going up to providing piping up to them, connecting to the existing homes?
Well,
for that $800,000.
Tykert wasn't involved in the trenching or the service lines. The individual homeowners had to do that on their own, but that was done at the same time so that the county fees were avoided in that. By doing it that way, the people avoided about a $500 inspection fee from the county. So that was very nicely done on the coordination part of it. But from my perspective, the most remarkable thing about it is that the speed at which this was done is just really quite phenomenal. They were moving like an assembly line out there. They're to be commended. Not like the Highway 12 Tykert work that you may want to talk about.
Must be a different crew.
Must be a different crew, I guess. But I just want to remind people that election day is upon us. Only a week from today. So
One more week.
Boy,
and all the ads will end. And the California economy will crash once they have no more electioneering costs being spread through the state. That's been the greatest stimulus we have, is the election.
For the lumber industry.
It's not all that stimulating.
It's not very
sign companies.
Signs and flyers and TV ads and radio.
Right.
Ink companies.
So that, Madam Chair, I have nothing further to report.
Thank you.
Me too.
Tom, are you coming to the
I'm
thing?
going to try to. I have we're moving cattle tomorrow. If I don't have big problems, I will be done in time to be there. Where do we meet at 4 o'clock?
You meet at the site
At the Garamendi Ranch.
not where Mary Jane lives, across
It's
the highway.
it's Bob, on Bob's side of the road.
It's
on the
across
west
the
side.
highway.
So as I'm going towards Moke Hill, it's on the left.
Correct,
Yes.
on Nelson Road. I don't even know, is there a sign on that
Not
street?
very
We're
visible.
meeting at the site of the...
4 p.m.
At 4 p.m.
Okay,
Hopefully they'll have it.
I'm going to try very hard to be there because I
Well,
very
the
much
Fish and
like to be
Game
there.
Commission, we're all bringing food, so I just...
Well, now I'll try even harder.
They're bringing fish.
Oh, God. I don't think I can make it.
No beef.
Can you just put some plastic bottles out there?
There you go.
Last week, Ms. Dawson, when she got up, she asked to have the correspondence put on the website. Since we talked about that, but most of the correspondence is like newsletters or something that's happening in Bakersfield or wherever, but we have to list it if it's sent to the board. A copy of everything that's on the sheet is in the clerk's office, plus the clerk does bring it to the board meeting every Tuesday. So most of it really is... I mean, it's not anything that's real significant. If a member of the public, which we've always done, it wants to see something in particular, we've been able to scan it and email it to them or make a copy. For example, item 3 on the Area 12 Advisory Council agenda. It's given to me because I'm on Area 12, and given to Steve because he's the alternate for Area 12. And so on, that's just the agenda. So there's usually not a whole lot of controversy, but there is the whole packet's right here, and it's in the clerk's office if you'd like to see it and read 10 pages of some newsletter. But I mean, we did talk about that, and we felt, well, then we could start, well, should we screen it and say, well, yeah, this is important, that's important. Well, it could be you want to know about some fish and game thing or some meeting down in Bakersfield or Inyo or, excuse me, Gary. You know, and so we decided we didn't want to get through screening. That it's just all available for the public to see in the clerk's office or at board. Again, I'll be at the Fish and Game Commission meeting tomorrow. I have Treasury oversight this week. Juvenile justice, it might have been canceled, Carol. I'm going to double check on that. I'll be meeting with Brian Moss tomorrow. I'm the gentleman that came before the board and had some concerns, and we agreed for a meeting tomorrow. And I'll be involved with the Halloween event on Friday. Oh, and there is good news on the...
Wait a minute, back up. You'd be involved in the Halloween event on Friday?
Yeah.
You're going to come in costume?
You'll have to come and find out.
Tall hat?
I did last year.
Did you?
Yeah. Except people said it wasn't a costume, it's how I dressed in the 60s.
Do you get to eat stone soup?
I do. So I'm also on the board's representative on the Calaveras Public Power Agency, and we had a meeting last week, and we've agreed to reduce the cents per kilowatt to 0.054. Jeannie, we might want to just, for budget purposes, leave it at 6. We did discuss whether it should go into the rate stabilization fund we have, or to use it to reduce, and we thought for the we thought throughout all the CPPA accounts, it's like 125,000 or something. I don't remember what Calaveras' share was, but I want to say 12,000 or something. It's just time to do it. Our rate stabilization fund still has enough in it, 2.7 million, and so we decided that Western's rate to us went down, and we would give that benefit back to the member agencies. So you should be hopefully getting a letter on that. They just signed the resolution. Okay, Ms. Boyce, do you have anything?
Just a couple of items following up on Supervisor Thomas's discussion about the DeLee Cassidy Water System event. CCWD's Executive Director June Lopez and Mona Walker both sent an invite to all of you to attend. So if you're interested in the particulars, I have it here on this flyer for you. Also, we received a letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development, and the county was awarded a 2010-11 Community Development Block Grant from the general allocation component in the amount of $478,375. If you recall, this is Mary Sawicki and Larry Busby spent considerable time on this. There's funding for the food bank as well as one-to-one job training and CalWork. So,
were those funded in full to the request, or is there some different figure?
I don't know that. This doesn't break it down, but it seems to me that seems off the top of my head that I think it's fully funded for what we asked this year.
Is the arrival date of funds in
No, it
there
says,
somewhere?
yeah, they will shortly begin to process the standard agreement. So there's always lots of hoops you have to jump through to actually get the money, but you'll probably get the money come early winter. Just to let you know that I've scheduled the general plan update study session for November the 9th at 1:30. If we could put that on your calendar for your board's request. Also to let you know that the loans that you approve for Area 12 for Motherlode job training and for Central Sierra Planning Council, none of the agencies needed the money. So
I was going to bring
we
that
were
up.
ready, but
Thank
we
you.
didn't have to pull the trigger. So they all received
They all received funding.
Yeah, so that's good news. And then just finally, the governor did sign Senate Bill 863. We've got with the $10 million for the Williamson Exhibition Program and changes. RCRC and CSAC will be holding an informational meeting to talk about program implementation. I'll be talking to Brian Moss and Ag Commissioner Mary Mutz to see whether they'll be attending to get the final details about that. The governor vetoed the bill SB 866, which was the mandate securitization program. Said it didn't give the state enough financial flexibility, and so that's off the table.
That's too bad.
Which one was that again?
That was a securitization for the SB 90 mandate claims from pre-2004.
You took that off the table?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a surprise to most people. Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. No.
Said it would cost them the state.
It would cost the state money, so that's it for today. Yeah, it was kind of an interesting veto
In other words,
message.
they're not going to pay us for it.
Right, exactly.
Otherwise, they'd have to repay the bonds.
Exactly.
So
That's it for me.
it's like, okay.
Did you say CSAC's position was on?
Okay.
I've nothing for the board.
Are we holding a closed session?
No.
Yes.
Well,
Are we going to hold it in here?
no, it is a no. Yeah. Mr. Jones?
Nothing for the board.
I just want to say before we adjourn, I think all of us went to see the movie and we saw Gary, so we can ask for his autograph. It was well done. I'm sure all of us saw people in the film that we knew.
Yeah, we knew most of the people.
And
what was Bill Schmidt doing in there?
Bill Schmidt was having dinner, and that's how they got him in there.
And you know what? He got no credits in the.
He got
we were
no
looking
credit.
for his name in the credits.
Yeah,
And
so it was very. It was quite.
He didn't
it was
have-
quite fun seeing it and seeing people that we know, including Tom's favorite Dorian.
Yeah.
Okay, this
They shot
meeting
me and-
is adjourned and we'll reconvene at 1:30 for a study session.
Shot and killed me, and that's why.
Huh?
I'm hungry too.